Andrea Matthews had always dreamed of this life, the life where everything was in place, where her career soared, and the world seemed to move at her pace. She had come a long way from the small town she had grown up in. With a job in a prestigious marketing agency in downtown Chicago, an apartment in one of the trendiest neighborhoods, and a thriving social circle, Andrea had achieved what many only dreamed of. But as she walked through her apartment that morning, everything felt emptier than it ever had before. It wasn't that she lacked anything, far from it. The large windows of her apartment overlooked the sparkling skyline of the city, a city full of possibilities and promises. Her colleagues at work admired her. Her friends saw her as successful, and her family was proud. But there was an emptiness in her chest, a hole that had begun to grow larger over the past few months. What had happened to the woman who used to take risks, the woman who had dared to dream of this city? Lately, she found herself trapped in her own carefully constructed life, following the same routine every day. Work, social gatherings, occasional vacations, and endless meetings filled her days. But something had shifted. Somewhere along the way, she had lost touch with the parts of herself that once felt alive. She had become more of a spectator in her own life than a participant. It was the phone call that changed everything. Lily Green, Andrea's best friend from college, had been the one person who had always kept her grounded. Their friendship had been through everything from breakups to breakthroughs, from college parties to late-night talks about life's struggles. They had seen each other at their best and worst, and somehow they always came through. But lately, Lily's phone calls had become more infrequent, her messages less enthusiastic. Andrea had chalked it up to busy schedules and life's demands, but deep down, she knew something was wrong. Lily had been married to Ryan Green for 5 years. On the outside, their life appeared perfect. Ryan was a well-known tech entrepreneur, and together, they were a power couple in the city. Yet, Andrea had always felt something was off. There was an underlying tension in Lily's voice whenever she spoke about him, a subtle distance that Andrea couldn't ignore. The message Lily had left that morning left Andrea unsettled. "I need you, Andrea. Please call me back. It's urgent." Andrea sat on her couch, staring at her phone, unsure of how to proceed. It had been weeks since they last spoke at length, and even longer since they saw each other face to face. They'd talked about meeting up, but their schedules never seemed to align. But now, something felt different. The urgency in Lily's voice couldn't be ignored. With a sigh, Andrea dialed Lily's number. Lily picked up after a few rings, her voice weak and strained. "Andrea, I didn't know who else to call." "Lily, what's going on?" Andrea asked, her voice filled with concern. There was a long pause on the other end. "It's Ryan," Lily said, her voice trembling. I think he's been cheating on me." The words hit Andrea like a punch to the stomach. Lily had always been so independent, so strong. For her to say those words, to admit that something was wrong in her marriage, felt like a betrayal of everything she had built with Ryan. Andrea could hear the raw emotion in her voice, the fear, the disbelief, the hurt. It was like a dam had broken, and all the pent-up pain Lily had been hiding was spilling out. "Are you sure?" Andrea asked, though she already knew the answer. She could hear it in her friend's voice, the desperate need for reassurance, for someone to tell her that everything would be okay. But Andrea didn't know if she could provide that. She wasn't sure what to say. She had always been the one to offer practical advice, to guide Lily through difficult moments, but this was different. This wasn't about fixing a problem. This was about something much deeper. "I don't know," Lily replied softly. "I've seen the signs, the late nights, the texts, the distance between us. But when I confronted him, he denied everything. He said I was imagining things. But I don't think I am, Andrea. I just feel it. I know something's not right." Andrea's mind raced as she tried to find the right words. "Lily, have you talked to him about how you're feeling? Have you really sat down and had an honest conversation with him?" Lily's voice wavered. "I did. But he brushed me off. He told me I was paranoid, that I was just being emotional, and I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if I even trust myself." Andrea felt a pang of guilt. She had always been the strong one, the one who had it together, and yet here she was, unsure how to help the one person who had been by her side through everything. "Lily, you don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you no matter what. We'll figure this out." Lily's voice cracked as she responded. "I don't know what to do, Andrea. I feel like I'm losing everything. My marriage, my life. I don't even recognize myself anymore." Andrea sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of Lily's words settling in. She had always been there for Lily, but this was different. This was the breaking point. Lily needed her, not just as a friend, but as someone who could help her make the right decision, someone who could help her find herself again. "I'm coming over," Andrea said, her voice steady, but filled with determination. "I'll be there in an hour. Don't do anything until I get there, okay? We're going to figure this out, together." The drive to Lily's apartment felt like an eternity. Andrea's mind raced with questions. What could she say to her friend? How could she help Lily navigate through the mess of emotions, confusion, and hurt that had taken over her life? Andrea had always believed that things could be fixed with hard work, with the right choices, but she knew this wasn't something that could be solved with a simple conversation or a well-meaning piece of advice. This was a test of loyalty, of trust, of everything Lily had built her life around. As Andrea arrived at Lily's building, she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She knew this moment would change everything, not just for Lily, but for her as well. Her friendship with Lily had been built on years of shared history, of dreams, and now, it seemed like the foundation of everything they had would be tested in ways neither of them had ever imagined. Andrea walked up to the apartment, her hand trembling slightly as she knocked on the door. When Lily opened it, the sight of her friend hit Andrea like a wave. Lily's face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked like a shadow of the woman Andrea had known. Without saying anything, Andrea pulled her into a hug. "We're going to get through this," she whispered. "You're not alone. I'm here." Lily clung to her, the weight of everything she had been holding in for so long finally spilling out. And in that moment, Andrea knew that her own life, the perfect life she had so carefully built, was about to change too. Because sometimes, the hardest decisions aren't the ones we make for ourselves, they're the ones we make for the people we love. The next few days after Andrea arrived at Lily's apartment felt like they passed in a fog. Lily barely left her apartment. She spent most of her time sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring blankly at the television or scrolling through her phone. Andrea had seen Lily in tough situations before: heartbreak, job struggles, even a car accident when they were in college. But this was different. This wasn't just about a rough patch or a temporary setback. This was her entire world falling apart. Andrea didn't know how to fix it. She had been trying, offering every bit of advice she could think of, urging Lily to confront Ryan, to get answers, to take action, but nothing seemed to work. Every time Lily tried to confront him, Ryan deflected, played the victim, or completely denied everything. It was like he had mastered the art of deflection and manipulation. And now, Lily was left feeling helpless, confused, and unsure of what to do next. One evening after dinner, Andrea sat across from Lily at the small kitchen table, a cup of tea in her hand. Lily hadn't spoken much all day, but Andrea knew she needed to hear something, anything that would help her friend move forward. "Lily," Andrea began, her voice soft but steady. "You don't have to keep living in this uncertainty. You don't deserve this. Ryan doesn't deserve you. I know it's hard to see right now, but you have to make a choice for yourself. You can't keep waiting around for him to change. You can't keep waiting for him to do what's right." Lily's eyes were swollen from days of crying, but there was something in her gaze, a flicker of recognition, a crack in the wall of despair. She looked at Andrea for a long time, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. "I know you're right," Lily whispered, her voice hoarse. "But it's so hard, Andrea. I don't know who I am without him. I've been with Ryan for so long. I've tied my whole life to him. All of my decisions have been about him, about us. I don't know how to walk away from everything we built." Andrea leaned forward, placing her hand gently over Lily's. "You're not walking away from everything, Lily. You're walking toward yourself. You don't need him to define you. You never did. This is your life, and you have the power to choose what comes next." Lily shook her head, a tear escaping down her cheek. "I thought I had it all figured out. I thought this was my forever. Now I'm just lost. I can't even imagine what my life will look like without him." Andrea's heart broke for her. She had seen Lily so full of life, so passionate about her career, her friends, and her future. Now, she looked like a shell of the person Andrea once knew. But she wasn't giving up on her. Not this time. "You're not lost, Lily," Andrea said, her voice firm. "You're just starting a new chapter. I know it's scary. It's going to be tough. But I'm here with you, and you're stronger than you think." Lily met Andrea's gaze, her expression filled with uncertainty, but also something else, a small seed of hope. "I don't know if I can do it, Andrea. I don't know if I can ever trust anyone again," Lily whispered. "You don't have to trust anyone right now," Andrea replied. "The first step is trusting yourself. You've been strong all along. You just need to remember that." The conversation lingered in the air. But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. For the first time in days, Lily looked like she was thinking, like a tiny spark had been reignited within her. Andrea held on to that glimmer of hope. The next few days were a blur of small victories. Lily began to take more steps on her own. She started answering her phone calls again, began reaching out to friends she hadn't spoken to in months, and, most importantly, she began to take charge of her own life. She had gone back to work, though her heart wasn't fully in it yet. The mornings were still hard, the lonely mornings where the house was quiet, and Ryan's absence loomed like a dark cloud. But Lily was learning to fill that silence with something else. She was starting to rediscover the things that made her feel alive. She went out with Andrea a few times, just the two of them, like old times. They talked about their dreams, their past, and what the future could look like without Ryan, without the weight of expectations. One evening, after a long day at work, Lily sat in her apartment, staring at the phone in her hand. She had been avoiding Ryan's calls, the messages that always seemed to start with apologies and end with promises of change. But this time, as she read his text, something inside her shifted. "I'm sorry, Lily. I know I've hurt you. I want to make it right. I'm not perfect, but I love you, and I want us to fix this. Please let me back in." Lily stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. There was a time when these words would have pulled her back in, when she would have forgiven him, no questions asked. But something had changed. Something inside her had shifted. The Lily she used to be the one who trusted, who loved fiercely, was still there, but she had learned to love herself first. She wasn't going to be pulled back into the toxic cycle she had lived in for years. With a steady hand, she typed her response. "I don't think we can fix this. I need to be on my own right now, to figure out who I am without you. I need to heal. I wish you all the best, Ryan. Goodbye." She pressed send. For a moment, Lily sat there, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. It wasn't easy. It wasn't a clean break. But it was her decision. And for the first time, in a long time, it felt right. Later that evening, Lily called Andrea, her voice steadier than it had been in days. "I did it, Andrea," she said, a smile creeping into her voice. "I finally let him go." Andrea's heart swelled with pride for her friend. "I'm so proud of you, Lily. That was a huge step." Lily laughed softly, the sound light and full of relief. "I didn't think I could do it, but I did. And you're stronger for it," Andrea replied. "You're going to be okay, Lily. You're going to be more than okay." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Lily believed her. She knew it wasn't going to be easy. The road to healing never was. But she was no longer afraid. She was free. And she had Andrea by her side every step of the way. The days after Lily's decision to finally let go of Ryan felt like a strange mix of relief and grief. The weight of years spent trying to make her marriage work, the endless nights of doubt, and the years of silence were now replaced with an emptiness that was both freeing and terrifying. Lily had made the first step toward healing, but now, she was faced with the long, painful process of rediscovering who she was without him. And yet, there was a part of her that felt proud. Proud that she had made the choice to put herself first, even though it had cost her the life she had once imagined, the life she thought she wanted. And in that moment, sitting in her quiet apartment, she realized that she didn't want that life anymore. It was Saturday morning, and the soft sunlight filtered through the windows of Lily's living room. She sat on the couch, sipping a cup of coffee, staring out at the skyline of Chicago. The city was bustling below, and for the first time in a long time, Lily felt like she could hear her own thoughts without the constant hum of anxiety or self-doubt. Andrea had been by her side through the entire process, and Lily was deeply grateful for her friend's unwavering support. But even with Andrea's constant encouragement, Lily knew that healing was something she had to do on her own. She had to find the strength within herself to rebuild her life piece by piece. The first thing on her list? Her career. Lily had always been passionate about design, but she had let it slide in favor of her marriage. Now, she was determined to pick up the pieces and start over. That afternoon, after an emotionally charged therapy session, Lily decided to take the first step. She dusted off her portfolio, updated her resume, and sent out a few job applications to design firms in the city. It felt scary, exhilarating, and, for the first time in a long time, meaningful. Her future was uncertain, but that uncertainty held promise. As she sent the emails, Lily took a deep breath and exhaled. She hadn't felt like this in years, in control, empowered, and excited about the future. It wasn't that she had everything figured out, but for the first time, she didn't feel trapped by the walls of her past. She had done something for herself, and that small act of self-love was the most empowering thing she had done in a long time. But even as she celebrated this small victory, the harsh reality of what she had been through still loomed. Ryan's shadow hadn't entirely disappeared from her life. There were days when memories would flood back the good times, the holidays, the promises they had made to each other, and those days still hurt. They still made her question if she had done the right thing. But with each passing day, the pain became more manageable. Lily was learning to live in the present, to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. A week later, Andrea invited Lily to a small gathering at her apartment, a casual get-together with some of her friends from work. It was the first social event Lily had agreed to attend since everything had happened. Andrea had noticed how withdrawn Lily had become, and though she respected her need for space, she also knew that her friend needed to take baby steps in re-entering the world. The evening was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the kind of superficial conversation that made Lily want to slip into the background. But she kept reminding herself that she was doing this for her to rebuild connections, and to show herself that she could still have fun even after everything. Andrea caught up with her as the evening wore on. "How are you doing, really?" she asked, her tone gentle but insistent. Lily sighed, taking a sip of wine. "Honestly, better, but I'm still scared. I don't know what comes next. I don't even know if I can trust myself again." Andrea smiled and leaned in closer. "I get that, but I've seen you bounce back from worse. You're stronger than you think." The warmth in Andrea's voice made Lily smile, and for the first time in months, she felt like she was beginning to trust herself again. It wasn't just Andrea who believed in her. She was starting to believe in herself, too. The weeks continued to pass, and Lily settled into a new rhythm. She focused on her work, rebuilding her career piece by piece. She had begun to reconnect with old friends, spending time with them on weekends, catching up on life and laughter. Slowly but surely, Lily was discovering the things she had once loved about life, things that didn't require the approval of anyone else. But the scars of her marriage, though slowly healing, were still there. Ryan's name would sometimes come up in conversation, either by accident or out of habit, and those moments would sting. Yet, with each new day, Lily learned to let go of the past. It wasn't easy, but she was learning that healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about accepting and moving forward. And then one evening, out of nowhere, she received a text. It was from Ryan. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope one day we can talk. I miss you, Lily." Lily stared at the text for several minutes. The feelings it stirred were immediate anger, hurt, confusion. She had moved on. She had rebuilt herself. And now, this? Her first instinct was to delete the message, to block him, and forget he had ever reached out. But then something stopped her. Maybe it was because she wasn't angry anymore. Maybe it was because she finally understood the truth. She had learned to forgive herself for the mistakes she had made, for the things she had allowed to happen in her marriage. Now, she needed to forgive Ryan not for him, but for her own peace. So instead of deleting the message, she typed a response. "I don't know if we'll ever talk again. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. But I'm moving forward, Ryan. I've learned to love myself again, and that's all I need. Goodbye." Lily sat back and took a deep breath. She felt a weight lift off her chest. She didn't need to have the last word or try to salvage what was already lost. She had let go, and that was enough. The weeks that followed were a mixture of quiet reflection and small triumphs. Lily had started dating again, but slowly, cautiously. She wasn't in any rush to jump into another relationship, but she was learning to open herself up to the possibility of love again. She was learning that she didn't need anyone to complete her. She was whole on her own. Andrea had become more than a friend. She had become a lifeline, a constant reminder that Lily was not alone in her journey. And with every step forward, Lily realized that the road ahead was no longer daunting. It was an opportunity to create something new, a life filled with her own choices, her own passions, and her own peace. As the spring weather arrived, Lily stood on her balcony, looking out at the Chicago skyline. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't need them. What she did have was her future, her own, untold story, and the strength to write it herself. For the first time in years, Lily was free. The months following Lily's decision to fully embrace her new life without Ryan were a series of small victories, each one a step further away from the shadows of the past. Though she had started with only a faint glimmer of hope, she soon realized that hope could be cultivated, nurtured, like the new plants she had been keeping in her apartment. Each new leaf sprouting from her potted plants mirrored the growth she felt within herself. Andrea had been there through it all, offering unwavering support and encouragement, but Lily knew that the real work had to come from within. It wasn't just about moving on from Ryan. It was about rediscovering the parts of herself that had been buried in her marriage, the parts of her that had gotten lost in someone else's life. Lily had spent years adjusting her life to fit the mold of someone else's expectations. She had poured all her energy into trying to build a perfect marriage, trying to make Ryan proud, trying to make him happy, even when it meant sacrificing her own happiness. Now, with the weight of that all behind her, Lily realized just how much of herself she had given away. One day, as she sat in the quiet of her apartment, a thought occurred to her, a thought that both excited and terrified her at once. What if I start over completely? She had been in Chicago for years, building her career and her life around Ryan. But the city itself, with its hustle and constant motion, had become a symbol of everything she wanted to leave behind. She had always wanted to travel, to see the world, to create something that was truly hers. Lily sat down at her kitchen table, her fingers lightly tapping the surface, as if waiting for an answer to come. She knew what she wanted, what she had always wanted. She was a talented graphic designer with a passion for travel and photography. What if she could combine those two things, build a career that allowed her to work from anywhere? She could explore the world while creating beautiful work that was truly her own. The idea excited her more than anything else in recent memory. It wasn't about running away from her past, it was about forging a new path, one that was entirely her own. No more compromises. No more second guessing. The first step was terrifying. Lily applied for freelance work and began networking with people in the creative industry. She had always played it safe before, content with a steady income from her job at the design firm. But she knew that taking a leap of faith was the only way to create the life she truly wanted. It wasn't easy. She had moments of doubt, questioning whether she had the skills or the courage to succeed on her own. But each day, she took another step, another small risk. She reached out to potential clients, updated her online portfolio, and started working on small projects to build her credibility as a freelancer. But the hardest part was telling her parents. Her mother had always been proud of Lily's success, but there was an unspoken expectation that she would stay grounded, that she would settle into a traditional career path. Lily knew this was going to be a difficult conversation. One Saturday afternoon, she called her mom, her heart racing in anticipation. After a few minutes of catching up, Lily took a deep breath and spoke the words she had been rehearsing for weeks. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot about my future, and I've decided to take a leap. I want to travel, work remotely, and focus on building my freelance business. I'm not going to stay in Chicago. I'm going to explore other parts of the world." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Are you sure about this, Lily?" her mother asked, her voice filled with concern. "It's a big change. You've always had a steady job. What if it doesn't work out?" Lily hesitated for a moment, but then found the strength to respond, her voice steady and resolute. "I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I know it's the right decision for me. I need to take control of my life again. I need to do this for myself." Her mother was quiet for a moment before speaking again. "I don't understand, but I want you to be happy. If this is what you truly want, then go for it. Just be careful." Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. She knew her mom wasn't thrilled, but at least she was supportive. It was a step forward, a small sign that she was on the right path. In the weeks that followed, Lily's life started to take on a new rhythm. She worked hard to build her freelance business, reaching out to clients and networking with other creatives. Slowly but surely, the work started to come in. She could feel the weight of the past lifting off her shoulders as she poured her energy into something that was uniquely hers. As spring began to give way to summer, Lily decided it was time for her first trip. She had always dreamed of going to Europe, and now, with the flexibility of her new freelance career, it felt like the perfect opportunity. She booked a one-way ticket to Paris, a city she had always wanted to explore. It wasn't about running away from her past, but about embracing a future filled with possibilities. Andrea was excited for her. "This is going to be incredible, Lily," she said as they sat at their favorite coffee shop before Lily's departure. "You're finally living your dream. I'm so proud of you." Lily smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I never thought I'd get here, Andrea. I never thought I could take a chance like this. But here I am, ready to start something new." As the day of her flight approached, Lily